Okay, folks, today I wanted to do a little video vlog piece on the biometric scanning and data collection that is just started in Israel. Now, since we are looking at things from the Jews' news and views perspective, in Leviticus, and I'll post the link to this section of Leviticus. In Leviticus chapter 19, verse 28, it says, "Ye shall not make any cuttings on your flesh for the dead, nor imprint any marks upon you, for I am the Lord." This is in Mechon Mamre. And then in the Bible that I read, it says instead of imprints or marks, it says tattoos. Now you could say to me, okay, this biometric thing, it's not a tattoo like the Nazis did on our forearms in World War II, or any kind of mark, whether it's your ear or anything like that. But you are basically having your flesh marked. Now, of course, it's not marked physically, but it's digitally marked. What they're doing with this bioscan is they're taking your fingerprints. Okay, so that's one thing. But they are basically taking a picture of your face, and this will go into a database. So your face is being marked. And of course, your fingerprints are marks of your identity. So you're being marked in a way that might not seem as it says in this biblical verse of making a tattoo or marking your flesh, but your flesh is indeed being marked. So there are a few articles that came out on this, and I wanted to read them and then hopefully get some of your guys' comments on this. The Christians talk about this as a mark of the beast. I don't have the chapter. I'm not up on Christian literature, Christian Bible, the New Testament, or anything like that. So I'm devoutly, Jewish. I've been Jewish since birth, and there's enough studying of the Jewish literature without really having to go to the other religions. But I do know that they say something about marking of the beast, and if you guys want to post anything about that below in the comments, your comments are welcome for some information in that area to the rest of the world. Over, a billion people are followers of this faith, and maybe they should know some of this. So Israel is and has been since its start really a petri dish of uh, ways to look at a society, control a society, delve into a society. I think almost along the lines of like a Cuba, where Cuba was a different, realm, being almost like pure communist. And I've been to Cuba, and I can tell you that it's pretty horrible there. A system of communism certainly doesn't work. They try to upgrade the system a little bit with socialism here in Israel, but if you look at the Israeli history, the government's in control for the first 30 years until Begin uh, was elected to prime minister. There was really a lot of control in the system, and with this biometric type of control they have nowadays, one can only imagine how horrid the conditions would have been from Israel's inception in 1948 if they would have had this type of control system in place back then, because they did really a lot of things to the new immigrants as they were coming in, controlling them in ways where if you weren't part of a political party and you didn't vote in a certain way, the jobs were not given to you, and you basically, literally could starve to death. Uh, all sorts of other things as well, which I'm not going to get into in this video because this video is primarily about the mark of the beast. I saw an excellent article in Jewish Journal by Simone Wilson, who's a blogger there. So I want to read, part of that article here and now, and then, go in. M.K. Feiglin was outspoken about this, and another minister, Michael Eitan, he was also outspoken about this. But really, one of the best, I think, for English speakers is this article and blog by Simon. So She writes, whisper the word biometrics in America and you will set a White House petition churning and a Reddit thread frothing for the new generation of Americans unburdened with an immediate foreign enemy or a fight for survival. Privacy rights trump all. All a beloved U.S. president has to do roundaboutly is endorse wiretapping or cyber spying, and his approval ratings plummet with the 30 unders. It would automatically happen. So when the Israel Ministry of Interior announced yesterday that in just 2 weeks, now it's already started now, so this article was written last month, that the government plans to begin a biometric database on all Israeli residents by upgrading citizen ID cards and other non-citizen identification documents to include fingerprints and facial recognition. This righteous young American waited expectantly for the collective rally cry. I should have known that in Israel, great paranoid Jewish haven surrounded by haters, security trumps all. I think that we know that all of our phones and computers for a while are already being monitored for security reasons, says one Israeli friend that told her over a Facebook chat. Another explained that for Jewish citizens, the Israeli government is perceived as less frightening in those issues. I guess they haven't done their history on that. People are not as afraid here of the Secret Service like they are in the U.S. because in the Army, which is mandatory here, people work with Mossad and Shabak a lot, and you can be drafted into one of those units. Although one can imagine that the Israeli Arabs, most of them who do not serve in the Army, don't exactly mean a chummy relationship with the Israeli Secret Services, they probably are not feeling as secure. And maybe that's one of the good points of this biometric deal. There are, however, some Israeli rights groups and activists who have been fighting biometric databases and screaming about it for anyone who listens since its proposal in 2007. Avner Pinchuk, an attorney for the Association for Civil Rights in Israel, this is ACRI, Association for Civil Rights in Israel, said yesterday that the database would be catastrophic in its reach, the only one of its kind in a democratic country. He said that the Netherlands previously proposed to store all residents' information in a central database, but the court shut it down. The police could use this information in all kinds of ways to avoid their constitutional responsibilities of due process, said Mark Gray, spokesman for ACRI. And then you'll have all issues of security breaches from external entities. In other words, if there's hackers get access to this database. Israel's new ID program may not seem like such a big thing on its own, but combined with other technologies such as surveillance and GPS tracking, the nation's privacy settings could soon propel it clear out of the Western sphere. And all this talk of Israel being the first digital state is in quotes. It isn't very reassuring. And the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which explores the possibility of biometrics, can you imagine? They're saying if Waze got involved. Now, Waze was just bought by Google, so Google is look into who is involved with Google, NSA and such, and this is to the point of potentially frightening. Biometrics' biggest risk to privacy comes from the government's ability to use it for surveillance. As face recognition technologies become greater and more effective, cameras are capable of recording even more detail. Serendipitous identification and tracking could become the norm. The problems are multiplied when biometric databases are multimodal, allowing the collection and storage of several different biometrics in one database and combining them with traditional data points like name, address, social security number. Here it's called the Teudat Zahut, gender, race, date of birth. Further geolocation tracking technologies built on top of large biometrics collections can enable constant surveillance. And if the government gets its way, all of this data could be obtained without a warrant and without notice or warning. A large standardized collection of biometrics also increases the risk of data compromise from which it could be almost impossible to recover in the near future. Biometrics could stand in for your driver's license or social security number, a Teudat Zahut number here, and you could be asked for a thumbprint, an iris scan, just to rent an apartment, see a doctor, even rent a car, whatever the case may be. This could lead to many vulnerable copies that linked data could wind up in the hands of identity thieves, and any data compromises would be catastrophic. And unlike a credit card or even a social security number, your biometrics can't be revoked or reissued. What are you going to do? Change your face? Change your fingerprints? I mean, this is the kind of thing we're talking about, folks. ACRI spokesman Gray said that in Israel, in particular, the fear that the government will abuse the system might be greater because the Israeli government tends to pull the security card often. Whatever a security apparatus wants, it gets. Popular Israeli journalist and TV host Dan Margalit showed us why that's possible in a recent op-ed on the biometric database for Israel Hayom. There's a link here, so I'll include a link to this article, and you guys can get these other links. I'm going to go ahead and give you a credit line to democratic regimes, he wrote. I prefer security over individual freedom, which the founding fathers in America, of course, said that if you prefer security over freedom, that you deserve neither. To sidestep what detractors in the program does have, the Ministry of the Interior will launch the database as a voluntary 2-year pilot program, but it's considering that Israelis' current ID cards are flimsy pieces of paper with ghetto graphics, and this is not really true because the identity card is not flimsy paper. It is secured in plastic and does have various anti-counterfeiting devices involved with it. But okay, so it's a flimsy piece of paper. They're saying ghetto graphics. Any terrorist could reproduce this in his cave. The government is basically enforcing anyone who wants to graduate from the Stone Age to enroll in the database. I don't really think it's Stone Age to this electronic frontier thing, but it is being said as such. Anyway, the real pilot has been in place for years now because currently the Israeli government gathers biometric data from all of the Palestinians in the territories of the Judea and Samaria between Israel and there, and as well as migrants who apply for visas. Unlike the FBI's own collection biometric data through secure communities, its premier immigrant deportation program in order to build the groundwork for its nationwide next generation identification plan. There's a link there as well to the FBI. One last tie-in for the conspiracy theorists back home. Israelis companies Verint, V-E-R-I-N-T, and Narus, N-A-R-U-S, were reportedly supplying technology and doing dirty work for the NSA as it wiretapped and data mined millions of Americans. Considering these companies were born from the elite units of the Israeli Defense Forces, they're likely to go even further in their home country. But again, wiretapping and other breaches of privacy around here are largely accepted as a cost of making a secure home in a jihad country. A prominent German journalist in Israel once told me, Simone, that while working on a story about Iran, the Israeli government officials who he knew personally pulled him aside at an event and asked him why he was making so many calls to Iran. We laughed it off, he said, as foreigners in Israel who fancy themselves rebellious and untouchable often do. Now, I have some other links too, but I'm getting up on the time on this video. There's one about MK Feiglin, so I'll include that link here, that he is against the program. And what's crazy about that is that the literally opposite end of the spectrum, MK Shelley Yechimovich, and she's the head of the Labor Party, who's the head of opposition in the Israeli Knesset right now. She's actually agreeing with Feiglin. So you're talking about like night and day, agreeing with each other, dark and light agreeing with each other, the winter and the summer agreeing with each other, fire and water agreeing with each other. So it's pretty. That's a pretty serious, agreement between the two of them, and it just shows you the concern that could be thought about here. And also a former minister, Michael Eitan, there's another article, he says also to stay away from this database. So very concerning, my friends, is that Israel is looking to launch, has already launched this as a pilot program. I think there should be looks into this to the degree up to the point of figuring out how to stop it, and that is Jews, Views, and News Opinion.